Major funding for Telehell is provided by Dave's Archives. At Dave's Archives, he personally transfers, archives, and preserves classic commercials from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s and shares them with you. Don't forget about his Friday night live stream on, well, guess when? Go to davesarchives.com. By RetroCirque on YouTube. RetroCirque has a whole new look and a new attitude as they bring retro commercials like never before. Always look for RetroCirque with a Q at the end. Bring your team with their team with RetroCirque, a Broadcast Plaza server partner. By Kier's Nostalgia Corner, a collection of commercial compilations, retro nostalgic things, and other random things that come to mind. Look for her on YouTube at KIERS Nostalgia Corner. And don't forget to check out her live streams early in the week. Could be Sundays, could be Mondays. Either way, they're fun days. And by the very generous benefactors who grace us on our Patreon at patreon.com/telehellpodcast, including Ed Beatty Jr., Rhonda Farrell, Rick Kalacki Jr., Chris Michaud, Meredith Morrissey, Rabbite, Spare Parts, and Neil Weinstein. Thank you. I've long resisted the temptation to do this, but considering how much it's becoming a part of life in this day and age, I've decided to relent and let artificial intelligence technology do the review for me. So with that in mind, here now is what happens when I ask the popular writing app ChatGPT to whip up a review of today's subject with the most baseline of suggestions. After which, I fed the same insta-review to an AI voice simulator, thus saving me a lot of time, a lot of toil, and a lot of writer's block. Here now is what the wonders of technology have to offer us.
Oliver Beene was a refreshing sitcom that aired from 2003 to 2004, offering viewers a nostalgic trip back to the 1960s. Set in 1962, the show followed the misadventures of the titular character, Oliver Beene, an 11-year-old boy navigating the trials and tribulations of adolescence in suburban America. One of the standout features of Oliver Beene was its unique narrative style, with the adult Oliver, voiced by Grant Rosenmeyer, providing amusing commentary on his younger self's escapades. This clever storytelling device added an extra layer of humor and insight into the show, allowing viewers to see events through both the eyes of the child and the perspective of the adult. The cast of Oliver Beene was also a major highlight. Jerry Adler and Wendy McKenna portrayed Oliver's well-meaning but quirky parents, while David Cross stole the show as Oliver's eccentric uncle. The young actors, including Grant Rosenmeyer as Oliver, did an excellent job of capturing the awkwardness and innocence of adolescence, making the characters relatable and endearing. The show's setting in the early 1960s provided ample opportunity for nostalgia-inducing references and period-specific humor. From the fashion to the music to the cultural references, Oliver Beene effectively captured the essence of the era, appealing to both older viewers who lived through the 60s and younger audiences who were fascinated by the time period. While Oliver Beene received critical acclaim for its writing and performances, it struggled to find a large audience during its brief two-season run. Despite its relatively short-lived tenure, the show left a lasting impression on those who did watch it, fondly remembered for its wit, charm, and nostalgic appeal. Overall, Oliver Beene was a delightful sitcom that offered a fresh take on the coming-of-age genre. With its clever writing, talented cast, and nostalgic setting, it remains a hidden gem well worth revisiting for those in search of a lighthearted dose of 1960s nostalgia.
And now, I would like to offer a rebuttal to that digital word salad.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
Followed by a rebuttal to the rebuttal.
It's amazing. You are 100% wrong. I mean, nothing you've said has been right.
And one more rebuttal to fulfill the rule of three.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
You want to know what really happened with this show? Sure you do.
When I look back on my childhood, one question comes to mind. How am I not dead? Back in the 60s, no one wore seatbelts.
And now, for external use only, this is Telehell.
This subject comes to us as a request by one of our patrons, Ed Beatty Jr. Actually, he made 2 requests, but as our rulebook states, we can only grant and honor 1 request per person who selects our Producer of the Damned category at patreon.com/telehellpodcast. So I decided to be diplomatic. Of the 2 requests that he made, only one of them can be found in full online without any awkward cuts or edits. So it is by design and by default that we're covering this, and not David Cassidy Man Undercover. I know, that's the bigger bomb between the 2, and it made TV Guide's list of the 50 worst TV shows of all time back in the day. But as long as the only available copy of the first show is all choppy and incomplete, I can't really give it the treatment it deserves, so this one wins by default. Then again, this show was short-lived too, and it had to have been for a reason. With all that said, let's get to the backstory. TV shows that take place during an era or time that's not considered present day is not exactly unprecedented. In fact, it may be one of the most time-tested tropes that any work of fiction could possibly do, to harken back to the good old days when things seemed more simple, more innocent, and more likely that this was the time period you would want to remember over the toils of present day. And to be clear, I'm not talking completely different eras of history altogether, like, say, medieval times or the Wild West. I'm talking more about those years when one is growing up and is trying to figure out what the world is all about. What some would call the Wonder Years.
What would you do if I sang out of tune?
That special time when you're not quite a kid anymore, but you still have some significant growing up to do. The time when you realize that no matter what you do to get ready for it, you're never quite prepared for life to hit you like a ton of bricks. When it premiered in 1988, The Wonder Years was applauded not just for how accurately it captured the feel of the era of the late 1960s and early 70s, but also just how much the show hit close to home for the target demographic it was trying to reach. That of the baby boomers and fringe Generation Xers who may have had their own formative years taking place during that same time. Whatever the chemistry was that made the show work, it worked wonders for 6 seasons, and also worked so many wonders for the ABC network that it was only a matter of time until the other networks tried to recreate the wonders for themselves in putting on their own single-camera, laugh-track-free love letters to eras gone by. Many of those shows were critically acclaimed, but failed to find an audience through no fault of their own, aside from being programmed against existing powerhouses on other networks. Ultimately, the trend of trying to cash in on the success of the Wonder Years with shows that take place 30 years prior to present day cooled off a little. And it seemed as though watching a TV show through nostalgic rose-tinted glasses was a trend that went into the sunset. But then, later on in the 90s, 2 TV shows would debut on one TV network that would actually help snap a losing streak that the network was having in terms of sitcoms. One TV show helped reignite nostalgia for the now aging Generation Xers who grew up during that time.
Hello, Wisconsin!
While another became a flag bearer for the rise of single-camera sitcoms for the next century.
Life is unfair.
The Fox network was still very much in its adolescence as it passed 10 years on the air. But as the network hit its awkward teen years, the network realized just how much of that awkward teen demographic was watching TV. So naturally, Fox had to play catch-up. Sure, they had football, The Simpsons, The X-Files, and a number of things keeping Aaron Spelling alive, but the rest of the lineup for most of the 90s had its fair share of issues, especially in the sitcom department, which is a completely different wing of hell that I fear to tread. Still though, Fox managed to get lightning to strike twice with the debuts of That 70s Show in 1998 and Malcolm in the Middle in the year 2000, 2 diametrically opposed sitcoms. One had a studio audience, the other did not. One had critical acclaim in spite of low ratings, the other had higher ratings in spite of a lack of critical acclaim. One show had a Scientologist as a cast member, the other had a Scientologist as a cast member who is currently locked up for being a creepy sicko. Point is, both shows broke the Fox network out of a creative slump in terms of sitcoms by checking off a number of boxes. That 70s show was a hit with young viewers that thought most of the cast was appealing, while at the same time tapping into the older and more affluent demographics thanks to nostalgia of a long-ago era. Malcolm, on the other hand, was the smarter show with smarter jokes, and the use of it being a single-camera sitcom and no laugh track whatsoever gave its viewers the chance to find the laughs on their own without being conditioned to laugh. Episode 17. So with the success of these two shows, Fox thought they could try to capture lightning in a bottle a third time by greenlighting a show that would attempt to be the best of both worlds, a single-camera sitcom where the main focus is life in a bygone era. The thing is, that show already existed in the 80s and 90s, and this new show was going to have to try and fight off inevitable comparisons. But who exactly would fight them off? This is where a sitcom veteran, whose name I hope I'm not butchering, Howard Gewirtz, comes in. And like many writers in the business, he would have one here of a pedigree. Just in the years leading up to 2003, Gewirtz was responsible for several episodes of such classics as Three's Company, Bosom Buddies, Taxi, which he was later a co-producer on, The Simpsons, The Larry Sanders Show, and Just Shoot Me, among far too many others to count. It was thanks to his connection to Just Shoot Me that show creator and executive producer Stephen Levitan wanted to ride shotgun with Gewirtz on an idea for a show that he wanted to put on. The story of his own personal wonder years. The tales of growing up in Rego Park in Queens, New York, where his father was a dentist. And, fun fact, his father actually invented a different type of toothbrush called Firmident. And if you've never heard of that, congratulations, you just did. Anyway, through Levitan's production company, in association with Fox and DreamWorks Television, the tale of Gewirtz's life growing up in the 60s would soon become a reality, just as soon as we find people to portray his family. And here is where we start to do some fact-checking from all that AI nonsense from the beginning. For starters, the AI bots mentioned that the roles of his parents were played by Jerry Adler and Wendy McKenna. Well, the bots were half right. McKenna, who was best known for being in the Sister Act movies, did indeed play the mother of this retro family. But in spite of the fact that there is a character actor named Jerry Adler, nowhere on his resume does it show that he did a TV show called Oliver Beene. The role of the father, who coincidentally was named Jerry Beene, was actually played by Grant Shaud, who you might remember as the single most neurotic TV producer ever created.
Sure, fine. So what if there are 37 other magazine shows waiting to drive us off the air? 2020, 48 hours, 60 minutes, Dateline, Nightline, Primetime, it's a jungle out there. And everyone expects old Buana Silverberg to carry us through.
So that takes care of the parents. What about the title character, Oliver Beene? The bots bring up that an up-and-coming child actor named Grant Rosenmeyer was playing him, yet at the same time, our future high-tech overlords say that he is the voice of the adult version of the same character. Unless they seriously pitched down this kid's voice, or this was to be a funny version of the Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie Looper, this is a physical impossibility. The person who actually voiced the adult version of our title character is a comedian that I've long admired, the great David Cross.
Chicken pot pie!
Yeah, I know he did many other things, but I first remembered him from episodes of Just Shoot Me long before I ever knew of his stand-up career or his 4 years of Mr. Show with Bob and David. But yes, shortly before he would find steadier work on Arrested Development, he would indeed voice the adult Oliver Beene, and not play a guy who stole the show as the family's eccentric uncle. I don't know what the AI bots were smoking when they said that, but if that's not advocating for human troubleshooting and technology, I don't know what is. Hell, the AI bots don't even mention the rest of the cast, including Andrew Lawrence as Oliver's older brother.
Whoa, that's amazing.
His brother.
She left him because he was an abusive, ugly drunk. Don't you ever talk about my
His
son.
other brother.
Come on, Andy, upstairs for dinner.
There is no Andy here. There's only Wolverine.
Now age him up about 10 years.
Penis!
There you go. There was also veteran voice actress Davy Chase as Beane's best platonic female friend, Joyce, and also character actor Taylor Emerson as his other friend, Michael, who also earns the title of the aptly named Sir Not Appearing in this episode. He actually shows up later in the series as both a comic relief for young Oliver, as well as an invoker of certain outdated stereotypes.
How much is that doggy in the window? Arf, arf. Red's not your color anyways. You're more of an autumn. I don't want to die. I haven't even seen San Francisco yet. Michael, what are you doing? I'm tapping out SOS. That way the person below us will hear the distress signal and call the police.
I got your doggy.
Be strong, Tony. Daddy loves you.
But I don't want to be too cruel to a child actor, and work is work. As for the rest of the AI-powered review that claimed that the show was, and I quote, a delightful sitcom that offered a fresh take on the coming-of-age genre, with its clever writing, talented cast, and nostalgic setting, it remains a hidden gem well worth revisiting for those in search of a lighthearted dose of 1960s nostalgia, end quote. We'll explain why all of that was a pack of lies.
After the break.
He's off, folks. Daredevil Dan, first man to shoot the falls in a bathtub.
Kiss me goodbye, Myrtle. Myrtle, what's the matter? What's bugging her? I shaved, hair's combed, must be my... Yeah! I got that yellow mouth. No wonder Myrtle's mad.
You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent.
Pepsodent, world's most famous film fighter. Pepsodent breaks up yellow film, yellow breath, yellow mouth. Pepsodent. Pepsodent leaves your mouth feeling refreshed as all outdoors.
And my teeth sparkle.
You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent.
Two great Pepsodents. White Pepsodent, the famous yellow film fighter, and Pepsodent Fluoride, the one that gives you more of what you buy a fluoride for. And use a Pepsodent toothbrush with straight line design preferred by dentists. Pepsodent.
This week on Telehell's premium content of The Damned.
Hi, this is Melvin. It's a hit. It's a miss. High-low. More rock and less talk on 95 DCK.
The only way to listen to Telehell's premium content of The Damned is by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Telehell podcast. For just a few bucks a month, you can listen to our premium content and get some swag along the way. Once again, that's patreon.com/Telehell podcast. And now, back to this week's torture.
Now, normally, this is where we tell you the date that the first show aired, which we will. But before we fire this one up, we must let you know off the bat that the air date order for this show is, how shall I put this, certifiably insane. As you know, when a TV show airs its first episode, they naturally start at the pilot to help establish what the show is about and who the characters are. Oliver Beene decided to take a more circuitous route in establishing its world by airing its third episode as its first episode. But given the air date it was supposed to premiere, as well as the world events taking place at the time, it felt natural to scramble things around a little. Why? Because this show premiered in early March of 2003, when the United States was about to go into a highly questionable war with Iraq. And we feel the need to mention this bit of context because the show's actual pilot episode would not actually air until a year and a half later, the plot of which is that the family turns their basement into a fallout shelter. Now, I'm neither going to confirm nor deny that the Fox network moved the pilot that far out of the way because of an impending war or an ongoing attack involving anthrax hitting too close to home at the time, but if you can think of any other reason why they would make this move, we're all ears. For now, though, The first episode is the third one they produced. Episode 2 is their 6th show. Episode 3 is number 5. 4 is 4, that stays the same. Number 5 is 11, number 6 is 9, number 7 is 2, and number 8 is 10. And then you get to the next season where the first show they air is the number
2 show, and the second show is their 5th, and the third is their 8th, and they air shows from season 1 that didn't even air the first time.
Please stand by while our host regains his sanity. Please stand by while our host regains his sanity.
I know, this is a very bizarre set of details to fixate on, but you requested this, Ed Beatty Jr., and I want to make sure you got your money's worth. With all that said, March 9th, 2003. International tensions rise as the world prepares to go to war with Iraq, for reasons. In the Club by 50 Cent is at the top of the charts. And at 8:30, 7:30 Central, we get about as close to a formal introduction to the Beene family as we'll get without having to wait a year and a half for one.
Ah, the winters of my youth. The sledding, the skating, the snowballs. You know what? Winter sucked. Let's talk about summer. Ah, summer.
Cue seasonally ironic snowball being flung by one of the Lawrence brothers, and...
That's my brother Ted. A jerk no matter what the season. It never failed. Whenever I was humiliated, Bonnie, my dream girl, seemed to appear out of nowhere.
Oh, hi, Bonnie.
Oh, we forgot to mention Bonnie. Sort of the Winnie Cooper of this show, who will always be the girl that's hard to get. She would be played by one Amanda Joy McCalca, who you might also know as one half of the music duo Allie and AJ, as well as continuing to have a career in TV and film to this day. But let's move on.
Starting tomorrow, my family's spending every day at the Capri Beach Club. What about you?
My family summers at the Terrace Club.
The Terrace Club, a.k.a. the cramped balcony off our Queen's apartment.
Here comes the meat!
Welcome to paradise.
Okay, let's get this joke out of the way.
Arby's! Here comes the meat!
Anyway, there's more to life than just summering on the patio of a city apartment. And the majority of the family agrees.
We cannot spend one more summer cooped up here on this stinking ledge.
What are you talking about? We've got fine food, outdoor entertainment. What could be better than this?
The Capri Beach Club.
The Capri! That's where Bonnie goes. Dad's gotta say yes.
Nope. What do we need that for? We have got our own little slice of heaven right here.
Hey, Ted, this is for the snow cone.
Huh?
All right. Maybe we could go to the beach club.
Which brings us to our show's theme song. And since this is a 21st century TV show, the producers thought it would be cool to take a small indie pop sleeper hit and adopt it as their own. Or, if you want it more crass, taking an existing song that would otherwise have been kept well enough alone, but the weekly exposure the song would get for being part of the TV show's title sequence could hopefully expose viewers to potential new talent, and then they buy albums from said talent. The show felt they could pull this off by adopting a song from a group called The Solids, called The Future Is Now.
Oh, golly, now the space age is calling. The fallout is starting to fall. Oh, well, they say the future is now, but I don't understand it at all. Don't understand it at all.
It's an okay tune. But I'm hoping the Solids weren't expecting the song to be the next theme from Dawson's Creek in terms of exposure. Hold it! Hey, me from the future here. It turns out the Solids are a lot bigger deal than I thought they were, pretty much because two members of the band were also sitcom writers. In fact, you may have heard of them. Their names are Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, who would later go on to do the theme song and also create How I Met Your Mother, which lasted for 9 years on CBS. And I wanted to mention this because both Baze and Thomas were also writers on Oliver Beene. I did not quite put 2 and 2 together until a little too late, so just wanted to make sure that got rectified. We now return to our regularly scheduled review. Act 1 begins with Oliver's female friend acting as a pillar of support and also delivering her only lines of the episode. I promise she does feature more prominently as the series goes on.
Well,
My best friend Joyce.
I think you look great.
thanks.
As far as I'm concerned, the paler, the doughier, the better.
My ex-best friend Joyce.
Now come on, that's not entirely fair. I mean, what good are friends if they don't rib on you once in a while? As long as the ribbing isn't too mean-spirited. Meanwhile, the omniscient voice of Tobias Funke tells us a little more about Andrew Lawrence's ambitions.
The beach club meant only one thing to Ted, scoring with older girls.
Relax, baby. I know what you like. Oh, yeah. Just let him breathe.
In other words, horny teen crap. Meanwhile, the mother has ambitions of her own.
This record will enable you to become a master at colorful conversation. You and your partner will soon be considered the most fascinating people in any situation.
Turn on Carson. That zoo guy's on, and he's got red-ass baboons.
Shh. I want us both to listen to this record.
And if I may be a little pedantic for a second, this show was supposed to take place in the year 1962, which just happened to be the year Johnny Carson started hosting The Tonight Show. Except this story seems to be taking place in the summer of 1962, even though Carson wouldn't make his debut until October of that year.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Well, somebody paid good money for me to review this. At least let me fact-check things, please. After we find out a little more about the mom's ambitions to climb the social ladder.
You know what my social life is now? The laundry room and the elevator. I want more. The people at the beach club, Jerry, they've been places. They've done things. I want that. I want to fit in.
Charlotte, you'll fit right in. You're a fascinating conversationalist.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Because what I really want, Jerry...
So much for spousal support. On to the club, where social statuses are pretty much the only form of currency. That and actual currency.
The big day arrived, and the Capri was everything Mom dreamed of. Big fancy cars, crystal clear water, but most of all, fun people. It was also everything Dad feared. My father hated tipping.
Oh, hey. Here, buddy, let me take care of you.
Watch closely. This move is known as the pat. The object is to keep patting until the tippee feels self-conscious and slinks off. But this guy didn't get to be junior assistant towel boy by backing down from anyone.
All right, fine. Here. Take it.
Which, not for nothing, kinda makes me wonder just how flexible this reality is compared to the life of the guy writing the script. Howard Gewertz's father was a dentist, as is the father on this show. Now, I may be wrong here, but don't dentists, or any medical professional for that matter, make an obscene amount of money? Hell, regardless of the time frame when this is supposed to take place, the family is still living in Queens, New York, in an apartment building. You know, a deluxe apartment in the sky, which I'm sure in the 1960s were still pretty pricey, even though it wasn't the borough of Manhattan, but still affordable on a dentist's salary. So why the cheapskate act here?
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
I'm just saying a dentist with a homemaker wife and 2 kids should be able to afford more than this and still be able to tip a towel boy and... Come on, I can't be the only person annoyed by this detail.
Get on with it.
Fine. Either that, or this is a really bad dentist who doesn't make any money at all, and...
Get on with it.
All right. So, while that plot hole lingers like a fart in the air, the rest of the Beans take a look around the place and attempt to fit in with the rest of the upper crust.
Did you see Nancy's awful bathing suit? Oh, did I? Nobody is wearing stripes this year.
Excuse me.
What are you doing?
My bathing suit's out of style. That alone. could get us blackballed.
Yeah, maybe if this was later in the 1970s and my name was either Ian Schrager or Steve Rubel, would that matter? But come on, people in the early 1960s weren't that shallow.
I'm Cynthia Voigt, and this is my husband Bernard. We're from the membership committee.
What the hell is that? Don't worry, it sounds more intimidating than it really is. We're just here to observe and judge your every move. Just kidding. But we are.
Jeez, I just can't win today, can I? So, the mother spends the entirety of the episode in a bathrobe trying to hide her fashion faux pas in the midst of the blistering summer heat while still aiming to be accepted among high society. Hilarity ensues.
Look, if you do anything...
If I what, Charlotte? Would you give me a little credit?
You're right. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Now I gotta go take a whiz.
Yep, we were as good as in.
Act 2 starts with Andrew Lawrence Beene realizing that you're never too young to be a creep towards women.
Your hair, it's like golden strands of silk.
Oh, come on.
And your eyes are like turquoise pools.
Wow, you're so sweet.
And your boobies are ginormous.
Whoa! Fumble on the 3-yard line.
Turquoise pools? Stupid.
Not half as stupid as having one of your older brothers coast through life on a one-word catchphrase.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
But I digress. Enter a favor called in by a fellow Just Shoot Me employee, the always enchanting Wendy Malick, who lets the youngest of the Lawrence brothers know what women really want.
Nice going, kid.
Excuse me?
What you don't know about women.
Okay, what don't I know?
I really don't have time now. I'm busy smoking.
Oh, come on. You look like the kind of woman that's been around the block.
I have not. Oh, who am I kidding? Just pull up a chair and I'll give you some pointers.
Or at least she will later on in the show. But first, let's get to know...
My father, the dentist. He was always looking for new patients, especially rich ones.
So, is there a club dentist?
Oh, sure.
That's Jebediah McCabe.
This place is a gold mine. Once Jebediah is Jebediah, I'll be the club dentist. And I'll have silver dollars pouring out of my sleeves.
Okay, hold it. I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but...
Dentists make money, and lots of it. Why are they being treated like money-grubbing second-class citizens here?
I mean, did I miss a memo that stated that dentists were hovering somewhere between middle class and the poverty line in the 1960s? It's a respectable occupation that can pull in more than enough money to afford not only a New York City apartment, but also transportation that was able to get his family from the city to the country club. They couldn't have been hurting for cash that much. Or maybe the show was trying to let us in on a much darker secret involving the dental industry.
You think that dentists are so different from me and you? They came to this country just like everybody else in search of a dream. He's just a dentist. Yeah, and you're an anti-dentite. I am not an anti-dentite. You're a rabid anti-dentite. Oh, it starts with a few jokes and some slurs. Hey, Denty! Next thing you know, you're saying they should have their own schools. They do have their own schools.
Well, regardless of that, let's check in on our title character as he realizes that you're never too young to become a stalker.
So, Bonnie, I can't be in the race today. They won't let me in the pool.
Why not?
It's so stupid. They're worried about this mysterious rash covering half my body. Sorry, Bonnie.
What am I going to do? Everyone else is paired up.
An opportunity like this happens maybe once in a lifetime, so I had to grab it.
I can be your partner.
You?
Yeah, why not me?
Okay. See the pool too?
Yeah, why not me? Well, for one thing, because I can't swim.
Ah, yes, the old I'll do anything to impress a cute girl in the hopes that I can turn that moment into a long-lasting relationship trick. Somehow I see that happening a lot more frequently on TV than your typical average meet-cutes in real life. So those are the stakes at the start of Act 3. Oliver wants the girl, even if it means risking his own life to impress her.
My whole life I've been terrified of the water. Well, I had about 90 minutes to get over it.
I'm doing it! Oh! I'm doing it! No, you're not.
And speaking of drowning in all things shallow, let's check in with Mrs. Fashion Faux Pas and her seemingly poor dentist husband. Seriously, what was the income disparity like back then?
The sun was beating down and Mom was slamming them back trying to keep up with the voids.
The next thing you know, this baboon.
Did you say the moon, Gerald?
Not only that, but Mom's brain was turning to goo under that Indian sweat lodge of a robe.
It's interesting that you should mention the moon, Gerald. I think that one day we will walk on the moon. And there I believe we'll find vast lunar mountains, magnificent oceans, and cavernous craters.
A stroke, ladies and gentlemen. She's having a stroke brought about by the heat. Isn't that hilarious? Of course, this being a sitcom, it's not an actual stroke. That'd be downright horrifying. But still, losing your mind in real time should not be a laughing matter. Unless, of course, you add a laugh track to the whole thing, so let's try this again.
It's interesting that you should mention the moon, Gerald. I think that one day we will walk on the moon. And there I believe we'll find vast lunar mountains, magnificent oceans, and cavernous craters.
Nope, still horrifying. So let's go to something a lot less horrifying. A 40-something woman telling an 18-year-old about the facts of life.
So you see, the brain is actually the largest sexual organ in the human body.
Really?
Be a doll and do my back.
Okie dokie.
It's all about sensuality, kid. It's about the unspoken subtext between a man and a woman. Oh, that's good. It's about two people who both know what the score is. Oh, baby.
Mrs. Darcel, you know what I want right now more than anything in the world?
Say it, Ted. Say it so I don't have to.
A cheeseburger.
So now, back to Amber Tamblin's husband and the younger self that he's representing, trying to build up enough courage to attempt to win over the girl of his dreams through a nightmare scenario.
Who was I kidding? I couldn't learn how to swim in 45 minutes. Oh well, what's the worst that could happen?
Hey, look! This big, strong girl's saving this pathetic little boy's life!
To avoid such embarrassment, young Oliver tries to keep a low profile by ducking into the club's game room that's inhabited by those who clearly don't know what sunshine ever looked like.
Of course, the game room.
Close the door! You're letting in the sun!
Oh hey, it's Barney Gumble, age 13.
Ah! Natural light! Get it off me! Get it off me!
But go on.
You know when you lift up a big rock and underneath there are dozens of weird, pale bugs squirming about? Well, that's who these guys were.
Hey, fellas. I'm Oliver. He's one of us!
Back to Miles Silverberg trying to climb the social and financial hierarchy ladder that apparently being a
dentist can't accomplish. Yes, I'm still hung up on this.
Oh, Sharon. Sharon, there's someone I'd like you to meet. Dr. Jerry Beene. He's a wonderful dentist.
Oh, that's good to know. Old Doc McCabe is only open one day a week now.
Well, hey, I'm open when your mouth is open.
Really?
Excuse us, Jer. Sharon and I are having an affair. Just kidding. But we are.
So now, moral quandary time. Is it worth it for your financial well-being to drum up whatever business you need to drum up just to keep up with the Joneses? Or do you take the high road and get the here out of there because you're put off by some of the lifestyle choices of the country club's patrons? The answer to that question is...
Hey, honey, I gotta hand it to you. I did not want to come here, but I am having a great time.
More money, more money, more money!
But then again, marriage is a partnership. And more often than not, everybody needs to be on the same page.
They hate me, Jerry.
What? No, they don't.
Oh, yeah, they do. If we don't get into this club, it'll be because of me. I just really wanted them to like me.
Charlotte, that's ridiculous. You are Capri Beach Club people.
I honestly don't know if anything was accomplished there, so let's go back to the lair of the Pale Kids to see how young Oliver is fitting in.
So, Beene, what are you running from?
What makes you think I'm running from something?
Come on, we're all running from something.
Ah, you're right. I'm supposed to be in a swim race.
And let me guess, you can't swim. Hey, and I'll bet dollars to donuts that there's a dame.
Her name's Bonnie.
Bonnie Smith?
Yeah, that's the dame.
Why was I talking like that?
I agree. That's a legitimately good question.
Boys, I got a relay race to swim.
You'll come back. They all come back.
Don't feel too bad for Billy. His whole name is Billy Gates, and I think he did okay.
Would you like the extended service plan with that?
Oh, he wasn't that Bill Gates. But hey, Radio Shack was a good match for him.
Until they went out of business. Thanks, future. While that's happening, Joey Lawrence's brother reenacts scenes from The Graduate.
Well, here we are, my cabana.
Really nice.
And private.
You sure they'll never bring my cheeseburger here?
Oh, they'll figure it out. Take me, Ted.
Take you where?
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. Aren't you?
Translation, an 18-year-old shouldn't be messing around with a 40-something, unless you were trapped on a TV show that airs on the Bravo network. Which brings us to the point where all three storylines collide. Oliver trying to swim, Andy Lawrence trying to score, and the parents trying to fit in, even if it means the father becoming both a figurative and literal ass.
Hey, everybody! Over here! Smile!
Dad? Holy sh**.
Now Mom wouldn't have to blame herself for not getting into the club. She'd think it had a little more to do with...
Check out the craters on this moon!
That magnificent bastard had saved us all.
And everybody learned a valuable lesson. At least I think we did.
I just have to say, you'll never know how much I really love you. I really love you, Char. You'll never know.
And as far as what really happened that day at the beach club, she never did.
The show debuted strong with an estimated 14 million viewers watching. But slowly and surely enough, the ratings started to slide with each episode afterward, only for them to nosedive completely to an estimated 2.2 million viewers at their absolute worst. Which is unfortunate because, and I'm just gonna come out and say it, the show didn't suck. It had a lot of potential, a lot of good comedy, and if you squint hard enough, this had all the earmarks of being a show that could have lasted forever. But the sad thing about Oliver Beene was that this was one of those cases where while you knew deep down that there was something brilliant to be seen here, no matter how well-intentioned it was, a number of outside factors veered it off its trajectory over the 2 seasons that it limped on the air. So when we take a look at where this falls in the 9 circles, don't think about this in terms of the content we just sat through. Think of it more as... what the here were you thinking letting this show go, Fox Network?
Limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, treachery.
Okay, I do have to give it one content flag for the constant hormonal imbalance that Andrew Lawrence's character experiences throughout the series in showing off his wannabe lustful ways. Meanwhile, a total of 24 episodes were produced, but 2 of them went unaired, making this one just barely eligible for limbo. As far as people dismissing it as a Wonder Years ripoff goes, I have to disagree on that because the show was different enough so that no lawsuits had to be filed. With that kind of logic, Gary Marshall should have sued the people at the Wonder Years for doing their own version of Happy Days. Hell, Kevin Arnold himself, Fred Savage, directed some episodes of Oliver Beene, so I can't imagine there being any outrage at all that another TV show tries to be like another, more acclaimed TV show. Imitation is a sincere form of flattery, after all, even though viewers are going to want to compare and contrast anyway. The show is perfectly fine on its own merits, although if I have to, The Wonder Years did capture life in the 1960s a lot better than Oliver Beene did, and take it from somebody whose parents grew up in the 50s and 60s, there's a lot that show got right. So, while I'm not going to ring the bell for fraud, I still have to mark it for heresy for adding a little too much of a rose-tinted veneer to the era. But the real criticism I want to give this show, and please bear with me on this, is just how much the Fox network mistreated the show, partly because it seems to be an ongoing theme with sitcoms that air on the Fox network. They start out perfectly fine with perfectly decent ratings, but then something inside their heads snaps like a twig, which then forces the network to think, hey, if it's a hit in this time slot, maybe it can be a hit at another day and time. Which, to be fair, TV networks have been doing for years and years for various reasons, either to make room for more shows or fill a few holes in their programming lineup. Oliver Beene began in the somewhat cushy position of airing immediately after The Simpsons on Sunday nights. To this day, any TV show that airs after The Simpsons is the beneficiary of that show's success, even accounting for ratings fragmentation over the decades. In spite of the inevitable ratings slip, the show was still steady in its first season. Even when the show moved to 9:30 for its last 2 shows of the year, the ratings picked up a little. So you would think Fox would leave well enough alone and keep the show deep within its Sunday night. Cut to the next season, where the following year's premiere episode debuted strong at 10.5 million viewers, but airing one night only on a Wednesday at 9:30. And if Fox continued to leave well enough alone, that would have been a perfect place to put the show. Deep in prime time, leading into local news, everybody wins. And then they did something stupid. Something very stupid. Something incredibly stupid yet unsurprisingly on brand for the Fox network. They moved the show to the network's second least watched time slot of the week of 7:30 p.m. on Sunday nights. Now, if this were the fall of 2003, they might have actually benefited from that slot thanks to the network's broadcasting of football games at that time of year. Except this change was done in the winter of 2004 when football ends, thus leaving the network to fend for itself until baseball came on later that spring. Without sports or very little else as the lead-in, up to and including the end of the original run of Futurama, the show wound up struggling with their ratings cut in half. And then, the show was taken off for the rest of that spring, and then unceremoniously returned to the schedule during the least watched time period of all, 7 p.m. on Sunday nights, in the dead of summer, where the show cratered to 2.2 million viewers. Between the constant time slot changes, as well as the egregious shuffling around of the order of episodes, is it any wonder that this show was a victim of network treachery? Then again, a show like this is in very good company with other shows that many considered brilliant that have aired on the Fox network during the same time frame, only for them to go down the toilet as well.
Undeclared, Action, That 80s Show, Wonder Falls, Fast Lane, Andy Richter Controls the Universe, Skin.
Yeah, we got the point already. Oliver Beene earns 4 out of 9 circles of Telehell. And we once again thank Ed Beatty Jr. on Patreon for making this request, with the reminder that if any of you out there want us to review a show that jumps to the front of the line in hell, you're more than welcome to do so at patreon.com/telehellpodcast. For the right price, of course. And to circle back to that AI review at the top of the show, I must concur that the series was indeed charming, like the robots said. But like many shows the network aired, it simply didn't fit in. Not unlike the Beene family at that country club. But you don't have to be artificial intelligence to realize that. In the end, though, there's only so much nostalgia that can be tapped before realizing that the future is ahead. A future that will be maintained with a proper balance between humans and technology in a way that will be beneficial to society. And I, for one, hail our eventual robot overlords for making life so easy for us that it will usher in a new era of simple times, where all we will consume is 5-weight motor oil and various cogs and gears to help us survive. This is our future, 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 our future. Next time on Telehell, it's that time again, our annual charity episode. We'll talk a little more about what we're going to be supporting this year once we get there, but for now, the reminder that the more you click on this upcoming subject, the more good that we're going to do for a lot of people. I just hope that the subject for this episode isn't going to be a major turnoff. Oh, who am I kidding? That's all we cover down here.
Then the show everyone's buzzing about.
Yep, that's catnip.
Our daughter's a niphead.
Father of the Pride brings you the wild life of Las Vegas, where raising a family,
Everyone out!
isn't easy.
You are the worst parents ever!
We are not. My parents were.
Followed by a sexy new Scrubs. It's all new NBC Tuesday.
Until then,
if it's not in Telehell, it's not worth a damn.
The part of the AI review at the beginning of this show was provided by 11 Labs. And as much as I hate to admit it, it sounded pretty damn human to me. And yeah, I do fear for my job now because of it, but what are you gonna do? The part of the Please Stand By guy was played by Rob Maurer. Telehell was written, produced, edited, and narrated by me, Justin Hart. All clips used in this program are protected under the Fair Use Doctrine of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, and all clips used come courtesy of their respective companies and owners. Some of the music used in this program comes courtesy of YouTube and their audio library service. Telehell is distributed by Libsyn. You know that thing that people do in order to communicate with each other without actually having to look each other face to face? You know, social media? Well, we do that. Look for us on X, Facebook, and now Blue Sky. All three of them at Telehell Podcast. And don't forget to like, comment, rate, subscribe, and pretty much tell us what you think of our show everywhere that you can stream us. And also on our complaint line, telehellpodcast@gmail.com.
Another great show from Mortimer.